we'll look at how manufacturers are building resilience in a world defined by constant disruption. In designing for disruption, orchestrating resilience with composable systems and AI, leaders from Terex will share how they're using composable systems, shared application libraries, and AI-powered tools to dynamically reroute production, reallocate talent, and protect margins. Joining us are David Jutcawitz, Senior Vice President and Chief Digital Officer at Terex, and Ken McIntosh, Senior Director of Digital Manufacturing. Moderating today's conversation is Mason Glidden, Chief Product and Engineering Officer at Tulip. Please join me in welcoming David, Ken, and Mason to the stage.
Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for coming out for one final session of the day. Today we want to talk about disruption, as we've sort of referenced a couple times earlier in the different talks of the day. It definitely feels like the new normal, and I think Terex knows it well. With factories across 3 continents and a very diverse product line, Terex has really embraced continuous transformation to build resilience, empower operators, and scale innovation globally. David and Ken, thanks for joining me today.
Our pleasure.
Do you mind introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about Terex?
Sure, I'll start. So thank you everybody for joining us at the end of your day. I'm sure you're excited to get to happy hour, so we won't keep you too long. But I'm David Jutcawitz, Chief Digital Officer for Terex. I've been with the organization for 18 years now. I've had various different roles and supported aftermarket technology and infrastructure, as well as the digital products at Terex.
Ken McIntosh. I'm the Senior Director of Digital Manufacturing and oversee the digital strategy for our engineering platforms and applications and our manufacturing and supply chain platforms and applications.
Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about Terex and how you set up your global operations?
Sure. So Terex is an industrial manufacturing company. We build commercial equipment. And I think if we go to the next slide, we got a quick picture here showing you some of our equipment that we make. So we make cranes, scissor lifts, booms. So you see some of that in the picture. And then our most recent acquisition was the Heil refuge equipment. So we're pretty proud to have that in our lineup as well. And we manufacture all over the world. So heavy presence in the United States, as well as Monterrey, Mexico. We manufacture also in China and in Europe. So yeah, pretty active portfolio, and we're excited to be here today.
Cool. I need to get to visit your factories sometimes. I'd love to see those operations. Whenever I walk by like a construction sign now, I'm like looking for the Terex logo of made with Tulip.
Yeah, I think it's one of the exciting things about being at Terex, and probably what brought me originally from commercial finance. That was my original sector that I was in. But just having those tangible products, something that you can be proud of, that you can manufacture, and probably most of you see them just on the highway as you're driving around.
Yeah, absolutely. With the scale you're talking about, I'm sure it comes with a lot of complexity managing operations around the globe. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that's created and how it shaped your digital strategy?
Sure. Yeah, so one of the things that's interesting about Terex, and might not be uncommon from your companies as well, is that we were founded as a holding company. And so I would say, have levels of maturity within our organization and very disparate ways that we go about our processes. So one of the challenges for us is to have a unified approach, both in our operating system, as well as how we go to market, and then also how we manage our equipment or manufacture our equipment. So we really, just over the years that I've been at Terex, really kind of taken us from this holding function to more of an operating approach. And we're quite proud about the level of improvement that we've made in our factories, with our equipment, and also in our digital products and our ecosystem as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I meant to say this earlier as well, but if anyone has questions, feel free to raise your hand. Happy to make this a little bit interactive. I think we have some dedicated time at the end, but if it comes up, feel free to just raise it.
Our pleasure.
We'll jump in. Yeah. So I think it's pretty clear from some of the challenges you're talking about that a more traditional one-size-fits-all approach won't really work. I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk about how you've approached that strategically. Can you tell us a bit about how you started out with Tulip and why that worked out for you? Why was the right model?
Yeah, so I'll start, and I think I'll pass it to Ken a little bit here on this one. But I think if you think about Tulip's evolution with Terex, it started in our Genie division, and Genie was lacking an MES platform and was really looking to see how they can make productivity improvement within the factory. And then as I was coming together with my leadership team, we really wanted to have a seamless digital strategy. And for me, one of the key underpinnings to that as a manufacturing organization is having clear MES capabilities, and then really being able to explain, what our factory is, how we're developing our products, and then having the data behind it so that we can make decisions and improve overall productivity. So that was the starting point as part of a strategic perspective. And I don't know, Ken, if you got a little color input.
I joined Terex 7 years ago, and I've been deploying MES systems for 15 plus years, and even worked for some monolithic MES systems in the past. And when I joined Terex, there wasn't even a computer on the shop floor at a lot of our factories.
All paper-based before?
Paper-based, and you might walk to a terminal somewhere to make a transaction happen, and in some cases, a lot of AS400s, and just definitely paper-based. So thin end of the wedge of bringing digital brought some of my experience with MES and just starting to show the outcomes and capabilities of digital transactions on the shop floor. At the same time, we started evaluating systems platform to actually help us with this. And Tulip came recommended, and Tulip came, and it was a little strange right away. Like, why would we want to build if we're going to build it, we'd build it. As we got to understand, and I started reflecting on global deployments in my past life, and the fact that they're only 60% directionally right out of the box, and we did end up having to bolt a lot of edge systems. It started to make sense as a solution, and we signed on with Tulip, and it's been exciting to catch our different factories across the globe at their different maturity levels, and really just be able to adopt and jump right in with a solution, with an approach that meets that factory at their maturity level.
Once you sort of figured that approach, what was your first step? I'm sure there's a bunch of things you imagined you could start with. How'd you pick the kind of first landing zone?
Yeah, depending. So we have 3 different segments.
Yeah.
And those segments are focused on core with material processing, which is focused on making big products smaller, like gravel crushers and Genie product, and different entire manufacturing needs and data collection for those businesses. So we kind of gathered them as part of steering, understood what outcomes and capabilities they wanted. We started at core things like product tracking, yield, quality data.
And did you have principles or guardrails that you were able to put in place to help get things started?
Yeah, so Tulip allowed us to start with innovation kind of first and foremost, which was exciting. So we started with called a 1-week boot camp. We had Tulip engineers come on site. A couple of them are here. Got us excited, taught us how to use the tool.
Yep.
And we started seeing apps being built right at the end of that 1 week. And MEs getting glimmers in their eye to say, we don't need to wait on IT to do this and deploy this. And so we were pretty quick. One factory we started in January this year, we were pretty quick, 3 apps right out of the gate within a couple weeks. And they weren't perfect, but they're innovative, and they were starting to collect data. The guardrails then started to come as we understood
How to
data
set
governance
scale.
and steering and cab and that sort of side of it to not slow down the innovation, but provide enterprise class solutions that were better than, Tulip was already better than the Excel document that ME was going to be using. But how do we make it so that, at least from a data model standpoint, we can start to provide my management with standardized KPIs?
And probably just like one additional thing just to kind of comment in terms of, how do we select and how do we decide what to deploy? We really did do kind of a look at each of the factories and put some sort of maturity model to each factory and kind of gauge where they were, what was needed, and then tried, again, to Ken's point, meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
We tried to really get to that point where what were the biggest needs, how do we influence those needs, and then ultimately optimize them quickly. I think that was a big part to it.
Makes a lot of sense. We often hear talk about connected worker. Sort of, Ken, in your factories, what does that mean to you?
So we're not. So when we talk about MES with partners, we a lot of it is MQTT this and PLC driven this, and that's not the type of company. We're very heavy on human workforce that's doing the assembly, and so connected worker was about getting information to our frontline employees, empowering them with access to information of what they need to build, when they need to build it, quality information that's happening upstream or downstream, and design documentation that's digitizing that as much as possible, empowering them. That's our focus with Tulip.
That makes a lot of sense. I'd love to dig in a little bit more about sort of how some of this scale has looked like in practice throughout your journey with Tulip. We hear from a lot of manufacturing companies about labor challenges, right? I think pretty much, especially the last couple of years, everybody is facing these. How has your digital strategy helped build resilience here?
Yeah, so maybe just from an overall enterprise perspective, one of our goals was around productivity. How many hours could we remove, from each factory around the organization? We set some pretty clear targets and KPIs, what our vision was. Yeah. And I think over time, we can clearly see that we are harvesting those hours, and it's allowing us to do more with less, as we heard in kind of the keynote. And I think hopefully we'll do more with more, as you heard this morning. Because I think, if you look at the investment, every dollar that we pull out, we could do two more things, especially with the use of AI and technology, right? So I do think that it picks up momentum, and you get more and more value. So I think strategically, our decision was there's going to be like kind of the low-hanging fruit, harvest that quickly, and then move up the chain and get some of the bigger items. But over time, we're starting to see the productivity boost. I think, Ken can cite examples within our factories where we're producing more than we ever have before. Tulip certainly is a piece to that equation. But I think overall, the continuous transformation journey puts you on that path to be able to do that. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we've been saying my entire time of deploying shop floor solutions about how do we get the operators that were not doing complex manufacturing last week and upskill them. And since COVID, that's become and is still present, where we're trying to take workforce that's not done complex manufacturing, get them upskilled quickly. So having standardized tools that they can use, tools that whether you're a seasoned operator or a new operator, you're moving through the system in the same way. It's guiding you through. We're progressing our product digitally. We have kind of that digital twin of the information that they need reflected in Tulip. That's been really helpful.
So do you think of that as sort of driving reduction in training time or defects or both?
For sure, both.
Yeah.
Yep.
This makes a lot of sense. I was actually just about to ask about some of the sort of immeasurable impact here. David, from your perspective, how do you measure success? What are you looking for when you
Yes, so definitely one of those metrics that I talked about was the productivity. I think uptime, certainly, the ability to deliver more machines and equipment certainly is a big piece of that. But there also is a pretty big morale boost to it as well. I believe that the team members really just appreciate it as well. Like work instructions, they were flipping through books back in the day, right? They're no longer doing that. The videos, the interactions right there, the ability to impact their daily activities. I think there's a lot of value to that. So I think as much as we're helping the employees, they're getting the benefit of it firsthand and make a better work environment. Terex is getting the benefit of building better equipment, higher quality. Ultimately, it needs to reach the bottom line, right? The P&L. I think that's really where we'll be able to say transformation's been 100% successful. I don't think we're quite there on the journey yet, but I hope that in a few years we'll be able to articulate that as well. So.
And Ken, when you think about some of the results, other than sort of labor savings, what are you looking at and paying attention to here?
Yeah, shaving hours per machine, right?
So
OEE through, yeah. Yeah, that's the ultimate KPI we're after is how do we produce product faster, more efficiently?
Yep.
And then get accurate measurements on how we're doing that because ultimately we were just talking before about tying quote to actuals, and when actuals are hard to even understand what they are, which has been the case traditionally for us. Tulip's helped with that as we're tracking product through every work cell. Not only do we have visibility and we can do small Kaizen events to improve productivity through those work cells, but we're also quoting our product more accurately, or will be. We're only about a year into the journey, but
David was talking about sort of how operators see digitization as an improvement in their day-to-day work. How do you think that reflects for the manufacturing engineer using the tools? Having especially gone through this journey yourself, starting with
the manufacturing engineers have been digitizing through Excel for a long time as it is, or using the tools that they know. You've got some that are writing clever little Python things.
Sure. Yeah.
Running, and this is like a little black ops thing that's uncomfortable, and you got Excel, and nothing's connected, and so empowering them with tools that both from my side on the IT and digital manufacturing side, and citizen development with our engineers, we get together a couple times a week, whether it's through Tulip hosted office hours events or through our own internal meetings. It's become fun. It's clever. And
it's like building an internal community almost.
it is, and it's teaching our, we'll say, manufacturing engineers some of the complexities of what it takes to deliver more than an Excel document to the floor. That's been an interesting. IT, it was easy to toss something over the fence, and why isn't this? And now these guys are doing the citizen development, and the first time they got in the room with 20 forklift operators and tried to show them the new Tulip app, and these guys are like, I'm not doing any of that, and why does it do this? And so they're getting a feel for what it takes and the change management of it, and it's been an awesome journey.
Understand like those challenges of full end-to-end deployment, not just building something, but
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Do you know how many app builders you have in Terex? Sorry, I'm going off script here, but
with OpsMoto,
I should have loaded that data up
we very
beforehand.
recently do. We just got access to it very recently.
Yeah.
I'd say in the range of 50 or so that are 10 that you would say are beast mode type developers.
Like core a lot,
and then 50 plus that are doing
occasionally
building.
here and there.
They're making clever things. Yep.
Cool. Looking forward, I think it would be an ops calling session if we didn't talk a little bit about AI. David, how do you see AI shaping the future of your operations?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty clear that AI is going to be one of the most impactful things that any of us can work on. It's definitely impacted our daily lives, from the way we make decisions to the way we use the technology that's at our hands to the physical things that we do. I think of it as like augmented, Dave. So like I think you had the Superman costume, right? Like I kind of picture it like there's somebody on my shoulder that's always working.
Extra superpower you now have
exactly.
access to.
So I think every worker is going to get that, but I think it actually will go beyond that, right? So I guess as I'm envisioning it, the autonomous bots working, right? So like I'm a big believer in RPA, and I think there was a reference to the keynote this morning that AI has been around forever. And so I've been building robotic process automation in factories for years. So I built my own factories for IT people, right? Like, so it was a little geeky. But now we're going to take it from that geeky thing to building factories and then building, our product automated with a little bit of input from humans in the key places to make decisions, right? But I do believe, the automation, the productivity, we're going to see a skyrocket there, right? And I think it's the perfect timing, right? Between AI at its inflection point and the way, we're bringing manufacturing back to this country, I think we are at a critical time. I think there's like no better time to be at a conference like this, right? I really do. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
It's a good call out to other things like RPA and other styles of AI. I think it's sometimes like the new hot thing on the block becomes the thing. It's the hammer that you have to use for every nail.
Exactly.
And it's like it's another tool in the toolbox. And there's some things you want to use it for, and some things the saw is a better tool.
Or you use the saw and you call it the AI.
The AI saw, yeah, exactly. Ken, I'd be curious to hear about some of the as you think about deploying Tulip, what promising AI use cases are you thinking about?
Yeah, so I figured this would be a topic of this today. And I was telling Dave before, it's interesting because figured, so video conversion,
Yeah.
one of our factories, the factory that I
Should have asked, what was your answer before and after obstacle?
Actually, so we're a heavy engineer to order shop. The ability to capture video and convert that into a work breakdown structure that can be accessed at any time and upskill new hires quickly. And it's awesome. You guys, it sounds like you're nailing it on that. It's an awesome use case that we've been exploring lately. Some of the other stuff that I'm heavily interested as you introduced agents would be just straight out of the gate through our Tulip release process, application release process. We're taking citizen-developed applications, reviewing them as a team, agreeing that they're ready to move into a production system, and just having that co-pilot check for all the little nooks and crannies of trigger logic and things like that take a long time to investigate, and have it produce a summary that says, here's the quality of this application. I think that'll be an awesome co-pilot for our internal review of Tulip.
Was that the one you built at the hackathon yesterday?
I definitely built that yesterday.
Ken's being too humble. He was part of our sort of agent hackathon yesterday. This isn't like the promising use case he wants to try. It's the thing he built yesterday.
It's good.
Now you know my problem.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get all that crew together and see what we could do in a day.
Yeah, and it's beyond Tulip. You get asked about AI. We're looking at where we're building right now outside of Tulip AI, but I think with some of the agent, this might be a use case. But how do we take tens of thousands, maybe millions of records? Let's pick on like aftermarket quality, and let's pick on warranty data, where it's nouns and verbs of an issue description, not necessarily nicely structured.
So you're getting like some text input describing a warranty problem.
Yeah. How do we take that, leverage AI to structure that, and then pipe it back into the manufacturing process to maybe right back to the cell that produced that issue.
Like try to close the loop and actually change the process based on
So we're seeing promising outcomes of AI to take nouns and verbs and convert them into structured, paratable data that we can.
That's really cool. I think that's one of the things I love about some of the most recent AI work is like there's this whole corpus of data that previously was so hard to work with because it was some rambling person who wrote 2 paragraphs about a problem they saw, or it's in a different language or whatever, and now we can actually use that data and do something with it. It's sort of a whole other series of use cases.
Yep, it's awesome.
So sort of final reflections here before we open it up for questions. I'd love to hear sort of one sort of key reflection. David, what advice would you share with peers thinking through transformation?
Yeah, I think just like a few themes. If you think about digital transformation or continuous transformation, I think you start with a vision. That's a key component to this. So I think you have your vision, and then I think you need global buy-in from your leadership team. So having that buy-in from leadership on what the strategy is going to be, how you're going to execute, and then setting up key metrics so that you can identify. And I think also not being afraid to fail fast, right? So I think it's okay to have failure in the development, in the life cycle. It's actually good. But when you get the opportunities that you see what's really working, really double down and influence that, right? Keep fostering that within the organization. I think one of the things that I like about Tulip is that it enables the shop floor workers to do the actual development, and we have a lot more shop floor workers than we have SG&A workers sitting in offices. And so if you can empower them, you can get a lot more output and value. So I think it is a really critical part to the strategy.
I think what you're saying, especially for me, the fail fast really rings true. I've seen too many projects that failed slow and went a couple years before reaching that end conclusion.
I've unfortunately been part of those as well.
Haven't we all? Yeah. Ken, as you sort of scale digital factories, what do you think leadership teams need to understand?
Same concept, right? Fail fast, fail forward.
Yeah.
But understand that while we have an end goal in mind of the KPIs that we're producing, but don't be afraid to innovate and let our citizen development community really get innovative where they were going to put an Excel document in this place. Don't be afraid to put something, even if it's just a little point solution app.
Like test something small. And
Test something small, you're going to get more familiar with the solution. And then as that maybe matures, and a lot of them do, then we talk about folding it into a common data model, and we talk about folding it into a common functionality of an overall application. But have fun and get innovative. We've got a great example of that wasn't anything on our radar of even tackling, was we have a lot of radio communication at one of our factories.
Okay, like people are using radios.
550,000 square foot factory, and everyone's got the radios on their shoulder, and they're calling for materials here, and they're calling for an engineer to come here. And one of our MEs said, oh, we should capture the exhaust of that with a Tulip app. And so it has a cooler name now, but I'll call it the digital radio app. And we said, no more calling on the radios. Just quickly type in what you were going to say into the radio into here, push go. It goes to everybody. It goes to all the MEs, all the quality engineers.
Through the radios. Hooking.
No.
No, okay.
Through a Tulip app.
Totally. Okay,
it's
got
all in a Tulip app. But now we can measure, but it's going like Uber style out. Like it's going to dispatch screens, and you can accept it and go. And now I can see the time that it was logged to the time that I accepted it, who's got it, I can delegate it. And that thing has grown now into part of our issue management system ultimately. Wow. And it's really helped us measure the exhaust of, and finger pointing of, I called for this material 2 hours ago and it wasn't.
You have the traceability.
Was it 2 hours ago?
now.
So we have traceability, and we can, and that helps us to continuous improvement around understanding how to solve and where we need to apply pressure to solve.
Have you pointed an AI at the data to classify it yet? And
Not yet. No.
Not yet.
No.
Yeah. Another use case. That's cool. I love hearing about those like unexpected solutions that like you didn't set out to do that, but hey, it was a problem and you figured out how to solve it.
Yeah, and everyone who was going to reach for the radio is now helping you solve it because they want the responsiveness to become better.
They know it can be better as well. Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I think we have about 15 minutes here left. I'd love to open it up for questions if anyone has things they want to ask Ken or David. Go for it. We have a mic.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever been told to make my voice louder, but I'll give it a lash. Well, first of all, thank you for the perspectives. The question I have is, you talked about working directly with the frontline workers. How do you get plant management to buy in? They have their control of what comes in and what comes out of the factory, and in some instances, command and control structures that are feudalistic in nature. How do you get them on board with this?
I'll give my perspective. The ME community, the engineering community has really helped with that. When it was stepping stones of going to IT, finding a software that, evaluating a software, evaluating a solution, or even if it was a homemade solution, having to wait on that solution. And then it comes out in the language that we heard and produced as an output. And we think we do a good job at that on the IT side, but it doesn't always hit the mark. Nothing hits the mark like the engineer that's reporting to that ops leader that's trying to drive productivity in the factory. So having the development and the use case come from that leader's team has been awesome. And it also helps in maybe some of the back channel communications that come in that say, now here's why this is going to be exciting and we're going to have.
So I'll probably add a little bit to that, because I think there's two components to it also. I think there's the bottoms up approach and then the top down. I think we had strategically alignment at the leadership level. So within each of the segments, the VP of operations would be clearly aligned to the strategy and how we thought we were going to get the benefits that we target. And then through that channel, I would say top down, we kind of implemented and kind of got buy-in at each of the factories where we would pilot this. And then we ran a change management program where we were continuously kind of getting feedback along the way as we implemented. Specifically, I was working very closely with our Genie division as we were rolling this out. And I think that was critical that, side by side, we had the VP of Ops, the segment president, and the IT organization side by side working together. Big piece to it.
Just as a
It'll be
follow-on,
okay.
Just a follow-on question. You mentioned earlier that you had built out some internal maturity models. Do they factor in this as well? And if so, can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, so we've used a few different pieces. So I think we've used like third-party assessments where they would kind of rate the different components, within a manufacturing organization, and then each one would then break down to, hey, this is where you're really mature, this is where you're very immature, in the middle, right? And then we'd then categorize those by opportunity. So what would be the largest opportunities? And then we tried to build a little bit of a Pareto where you could see the high opportunity, the easy to deploy, and then as you were doing those, you can kind of go in and start to implement. So I think that was a little bit of the maturity assessment, and we've done that, across our businesses from a manufacturing perspective, but also our functions as well.
Yeah, I maintain, and happy if you reach out to share details on it, but I maintain kind of my team's maturity and a maturity heat map that's everything through the SIOP process, through material management handling, through manufacturing execution, and the different swim lanes of capabilities and how each of our factories score through my eyes and through my conversation with ops leaders. And that helps us, where do we want to apply pressure to where we want to be.
And I'd say in fairness, though, it is relative precision, right? You're never going to get it 100% right, and you don't know exactly, but you have a good feel, and then you can kind of gauge it through the testing and the implementation. That's how you can see if you're really getting the value that you expect.
Maybe one last follow-up is on our Tulip apps, it's not fully in practice yet. It's a great idea. I'm going to love to see it in practice soon, but measuring and monitoring our applications through maturity levels themselves. So to have a maturity 1 level, that's the innovative level, throw common data model to the wind, throw best practices to the wind, get it out there and get innovative. And maturity level 2 might be, this is great for the factory. I'm now tracking things through powder coat area and through subassembly area. And maturity level 3 might be scale globally and on solution or something like this. And so just grading our Tulip application maturity as well, something looking to do.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's like how we see a lot of the scale of start, iterate, make standard, and then go global. Huh. Nice.
Hi, my question's a little long, sorry. You mentioned that when you joined your organization, there wasn't a PC on the floor, to now this digital ecosystem where you have connected workers that are empowered with tools that they didn't have before and are able to make probably decisions that they weren't able to make before. Have you seen that there's been a shift in the kind of skills that the end user or the worker needs to now have versus what they were previously coming on board with, or training strategies, have they shifted? Has your manufacturing support for the end user shifted with this digital ecosystem?
I would say no from the end user. The end user experience, they were going to look for a paper schematic, or they were going to have to get a paper pick list, whatever that paper might have been, or even log a nonconformance on paper, which is the case 7 years ago. And so digitizing that information that they were already going to have to go look for, that's been an easy adoption. Making it seamless and looking at it through the eyes of the operator that didn't get out of bed to use the computer system, right? They're there to put parts on top of other parts. And how do we make that seamless and approachable and easy to get that information? That's been kind of a journey with them. We do it together. And that's been pretty successful endeavor.
I would probably add just maybe a couple different things. So I think probably in my tenure at Terex, one of the most interesting things was, obviously I come from an IT background, and when I did my first factory tour, which I was very excited to see, there were some lean folks there that walked me around and showed me that there was not one computer in the factory, there was not one screen, and it was never going to change, right? And that was nice to meet me, and we'll see you again in 20 years. And now in that same factory, right, there's big Kanban boards digitally, the end-on systems up. You can see the throughput and the value that the technology brings, but also the partnership and collaboration that's there. So there's been a massive mind shift that I would probably argue that most don't even realize took place inside the company in the last 20 years. And this is some of our best, most mature factories. So it really has been a transition. And I think the other transition is just we'll say the native digital workers. They need and want the technology. So although we make things in a way that anyone can use it, I think they're probably challenging us to come up with the next great thing that's going to make their job better and easier. And folks are going to want to work at Terex if we deliver those products, right? Like for them, right? Because they're going to have a choice where to work. We know that the workforce is limited, and they can go across the street and work for someone else. So I hope that we'll win that competition by providing them some great tools to leverage.
So your last tagline on that was around support. That's been maybe again, from the IT perspective, and in our world, IT and OT is kind of blended. But that's been maybe the biggest challenge, is just how do we scale support? What's run versus transform as far as that support goes? What's the RACI model of everything from the iPad support to the digital signage to the Tulip applications? And that's a bit of a thrash it out as we've gone. And don't get me wrong either. As you were saying out loud, from no PCs to this George Jetson world of futuristic fact, we're definitely not a showcase futuristic fact. We are digital in a lot of areas. We are, like Dave mentioned, we are very heavily driven by digitized processes and digitized as much as we can. We've still got a long journey to go.
Agreed.
I don't know how filmed this is or if it's on YouTube ever, but it's not. Literally 6 months ago or so, I had an operations manager take his hat off and because we're introducing the big five. We digitized in Tulip with the safety, quality, delivery, cost, and morale, and starting to track through our tier system digitally. All was whiteboards before. Still is in some factories. We're adopting this, kind of like our keynote this morning with Stanley. But as our first phase of that was the issue management that pops up through the tier process, that I'm standing there as part of a tier 3 meeting and I say I'm going to be lying down tomorrow because of this. So we digitized that right away. And it was all whiteboards before. So we took down the whiteboard, put the TV, put the Tulip app in, and production. One of our leaders is hat off. This is so stupid. Why are we spending our time on this? We should be doing. And that same leader is orchestrating those meetings every day now and has all this information. And then why is this 38 days it's been in this? Sometimes it's been a little bit of just kick off the diving board and digitize and change and get rid of the whiteboards.
How's it going? So talking a lot about adoption, you spoke a lot about the deployment to Genie to start with. How did that look like expanding to other facilities? What was sort of your training and personnel model, and what was the ownership from those people, I guess is.
Maybe I'll go first. Sure. So I would say definitely because we were founded from a holding company to an operating company and shifting, it wasn't necessarily the simplest thing to do. I think some of the wins helped support the work that Ken and team had to do to go from site to site, right? So it's almost like from the background they were watching to see if this was going to work, right? Let's let it play out. So it's not that we were able to go deploy everywhere. I think, but at Genie, as we had the support to go do it in a few factories and we delivered there, then our second largest business at the time, material processing, said, all right, we're interested in how this would work. Let's have a conversation. And we went to their factories and we showed them we showed them some of what we were doing, and we went back and forth. And I think it was the starting point, right? That's what got the ball rolling. And then obviously having an expert like Ken really helps because he can understand the process as well as the technology, and then how to build the partnerships with the teams, and then it really starts to grow and build. So that's my kind of thinking on it.
Yeah, we're definitely not where we want to be yet as well. We do have outcomes and capabilities that are consistent in many of our applications, but the applications themselves are different. And end state, we'd like to see deployable applications that are enterprise supported, enterprise built, and that's not been the easiest to get. Now, this is the way this factory works, and this is the way that we want to track. And every factory is a little bit different. Their thought process on what they want to track and even how they want to track it has been a little different. So we've allowed that, and we are starting to look at how do we pull that together now with Tulip to make it more of an enterprise level application. That maturity level 3, I'd say we don't have that yet. That's one of our next steps.
Any last questions? Well, thanks so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, David, for joining us today. We have a reception out on the lawn right outside, and hope to see you all there.
Thank you, guys.